Baseball has some awesome shortstops. Despite being in just his second year, Gunnar Henderson might be the best shortstop. Bobby Witt Jr. is also incredible, as those two are guys being talked about a lot, deservingly so. They're really good, both with the bat and with the glove, being the picture-perfect players to start a franchise with. You really can't ask for anything better. Then there's the guys who have been around a little longer, like Trey Turner, Corey Seager, Francisco Lindor, all guys who are at the very least solid shortstops and overall players. But there's one shortstop in particular that stands out to me as not necessarily the best, not anymore, but someone who isn't talked about as much as he should be talked about, especially when he legitimately could be in the middle of a Hall of Fame career. So if you're part of the 70% of viewers not subscribed yet, come aboard and join the wonderful people who are subscribed to the channel, as a couple years ago, baseball had one of maybe its best free agent class of shortstops ever. A class that consisted of Xander Bogaerts, Dansby Swanson, Trey Turner, and Carlos Correa. Bogaerts would take an undeniable offer from San Diego, Swanson would choose the Cubs, Trey Turner would reject a crazy offer from the Padres to join the Phillies, and Carlos Correa would sign a massive deal with the Giants, and then the Mets, and then the Twins, becoming the first player in sports history to sign a three-team 31-year contract worth $865 million. Truly amazing stuff. No, but it really was crazy, as Correa's right ankle scared the hell out of not one but two teams who agreed to deals with him. The Giants gave him $350 million for 13 years, only to back out of that a week later, right before they were about to have his introductory press conference. That's when Steve Cohen swooped in hours later to sign him to a 12-year, $315 million contract, only for that deal to fall through a few weeks later, forcing Correa to go back to where he began the offseason in Minnesota, taking their 6-year, $200 million contract to continue being a Twin. To sum it up in the best way possible, bro basically got stood up by the two women he wanted the most, leaving him no other choice than to go back to his crazy ex-girlfriend and put a ring on her finger. It happens. Now, Correa's ankle wasn't even really an issue at that current moment. The backstory is an injury he suffered back before he was even a big leaguer in 2014 when he was playing in the minors, getting surgery to repair a fractured right fibula and ligament damage, and during that surgery had a metal plate inserted into his right leg, and throughout his entire career so far, he's never had an issue with that ankle. Correa's had several injury issues, but none of them have had anything to do with that ankle. He did have one incident late in the 2022 season when the surgically placed plate in his ankle started vibrating after he was thrown out trying to steal, and it hurt. But other than that, nothing. Yet the Giants and Mets could not get over the possibility of what that ankle situation could mean for the future. I will say, signing Correa or any shortstop for as long as the Giants and Mets initially did would be pretty dumb. I mean, 12 or 13 years is insane, especially for someone whose defense is so valuable. So as that contract gets longer and as he ages, Correa clearly won't be the same in that part of his game. So the Twins got the best scenario out of this whole saga, being able to keep Correa, arguably baseball's best shortstop, while also doing so for another 6 years rather than twice as much of a commitment. Correa is back with the Twins after signing over $850 million worth of contracts, and it's all a big deal, obviously. Nothing like this had ever happened before, but since this situation, Carlos Correa hasn't really been talked about that much. It's almost like he became somewhat forgotten, but to be fair, it was deserved, at least for last year. In 2023, Correa's second year with the Twins and the first year of his new Twins contract, he was awful. At least at the plate, he was. Like, it was almost as dreadful as Madonna's acting abilities. Not quite that bad, but you get the point. Despite the Twins being a good team and winning the AL Central Division, Correa didn't help too much with any of that. He was that person who didn't do much for the group project, yet got credit for it, hitting to the lowest batting average of his entire career at .230, and his overall offensive numbers were bad and just below average. He also hit into the most double plays in all of baseball with 30, which was pretty wild. Carlos Correa and double plays in 2023 paired together, as well as Hunter Biden and crack. Dude just could not stop hitting grounders at guys with someone on first base. Now, Correa did end up waking up in October for a few games, hitting over 400 and helping the Twins sweep Toronto in the wildcard round before kind of giving Houston a run for their money as their season ended in the ALDS. Overall, despite the good little run in the postseason, it was a very lame year for Correa, clearly not worth what he was getting paid for, and because of this, Correa hasn't really been at the focus of many conversations. I mentioned Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt as probably the two best shortstops right now, and they deserve all the praise they've been getting, as those two are only getting better. As for Correa, things are back to what they should be in 2024. although he may not necessarily be the best shortstop anymore, something he was, or at least arguably was, at earlier points in his career. Carlos Correa is back at being one of the best. Everything is up for Correa this year so far. The batting average, the on-base percentage, he's starting to find his power, and the defense at shortstop, per usual, is arguably the best. Correa is my personal favorite shortstop to watch make plays defensively because of just how elite all of it is. The range and arm strength. Dude has an Elon Musk built rocket for an arm. It's insane. The batting average and it being up for Correa is very important too, as there's something I noticed when looking at his career. Correa's had 2 full seasons that were below average offensively, 2018 and 2023. And the common denominator between the two, his batting average was low, actually almost identical in those years, both in the 230s. In every other full season Correa's played in, the lowest batting average he has in those seasons is 274. I know batting average isn't looked at as an important stat anymore by many, and in some ways it's even frowned upon, but there's still some value with it. And in the case of Carlos Correa, batting average plays an important factor in how productive he is. It's pretty clear that when he has a good one, everything else is better too. Correa can't really put up good numbers with a low batting average. It's just not his game like it can be with others. For example, a guy like Kyle Schwarber hit 197 last year, so 33 points even lower than Correa's low average. Yet Schwarber still had a way better season than Correa, hitting almost 50 home runs and walking more than anyone in the National League. But you can't tell Correa to do that. It's just not his game. It's like telling a rabbi to pray to Jesus, a Christian to worship Allah, and a Muslim to be a gay alcoholic. It just doesn't correlate well. And unsurprisingly, with Correa's batting average way up this year so far, so is everything else, like I said. Yet, despite the productive year he's been having, Correa isn't getting that much recognition. At least not as much as it seems he should be getting. And I'm not even necessarily over here saying that this is unfair. Correa should be getting more attention, especially considering how he's been viewed for the majority of his career, but I do get why the lack of recognition this season is happening. I mean, for one, like I just went over, his really underwhelming year last year didn't help things, and definitely pushed Correa down the list of notable shortstops. And as good as Correa has been to bounce back in 2024, there's still a long ways to go in the season. Another reason is the team he's on. Even though the Twins have been a competitive team in recent years, they still haven't done enough to get that much recognition, especially when as good as this team has actually been this season, they've still been overshadowed by teams in their own division, like the first place Guardians, who have been awesome and way better than anyone expected, and the Royals, who have been playing better than they have in like 8 years, with Bobby Witt Jr., who's now $288 million richer, of course being front and center of that success and hype. The Twins historically tend to fly under the radar as much as Tyler Perry's Madea movies do, but unlike the Madea movies, it's understandably so for the Twins. And something that factors heavily into this is their lack of any success against the Yankees, losing to them 6 times in the postseason since 2003. It's actually insane and gotten so lopsided to the point where you could argue at this point the entire point of the Minnesota Twins franchise's existence is just to get their teeth kicked in like an NPC Batman criminal for the Yankees in October and just in general. Just like Kris Jenner identifies as a man, the Twins identify as a punching bag for the Yankees. The Twins also in general just tend to collapse in October, and when we're talking about a Yankee team that's as dominant as ever this year, it's hard to see things changing, especially when we've already seen what this looks like, as the Yankees already played 2 series against the Twins this year and won every game, sweeping both series. So I just think people don't really take the Twins as seriously, and Correa gets less recognition because of that. But hey, that just means the Twins will have to prove themselves, and we know Correa isn't the issue with that. Even in his worst season ever, he still was the team's best hitter come playoff time. And now with Correa back to his vintage form, putting up the production he last had in 2022 in the vast majority of his years in Houston, he's back at the top of shortstops who should be recognized as such. Gunnar and Bobby are the best right now, that's undeniable, but Correa, who used to be the best, isn't too far behind them and has become, dare I say, underrated. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.